In this video lecture module, we'll be talking about eggs. Look at that. Chickens' eggs actually come in lots of different colors depending on the species. This is one of my personal favorites. This is an Americana. They lay these lovely green eggs. Well, humans lay eggs too. Okay, well, not really. They don't lay eggs, but women ovulate. Ovulation is the process that occurs in an ovary when a follicle containing an egg, an oocyte, when that ruptures and releases the egg. That's called ovulation. Typically occurs on day 14 of a woman's monthly cycle. But let's back up and talk about where these eggs come from. Much like what we had talked about in the male, there's always mitosis that happens before meiosis. The developing embryo has a finite number of these stem cells called oogonia. And if she wants to produce a lot of these primary oocytes, she has to multiply the oogonia through mitosis. So this is just good old-fashioned mitosis. It produces identical cells. The DNA is identical to what we started with. The genetic shuffling has yet to occur. So when a little girl is born, she's born with 4 or maybe 500,000 of these primary oocytes, which gives rise to this half-truth that a woman is born with all of the eggs that she'll ever need. She's not really born with eggs. These are just on their way to becoming eggs in the same way that spermatocytes in the male are on their way to becoming sperm cells. Okay, so each of these little eggs is developing inside of a tiny package called a follicle. It isn't much to look at this stage, just a single layer of cells surrounding the egg. Those cells will develop into her support cells that will ultimately leave with the egg when she's ovulated. But back at this stage, before the baby's even born, all of those primary oocytes that have developed are all wrapped in their little package. Then, when the girl hits puberty, some of the eggs begin to undergo the next stage, meiosis, actually meiosis 1. Only the best and the brightest of these eggs are promoted to this level, though. So some of the eggs will still remain as primary oocytes until later on in life when maybe they get promoted up to the next level. After meiosis 1 is complete, one of the nuclei is ejected. This is called a first polar body. Now it might seem strange. You wonder why go to all that work of making the nucleus only to kick it out. But the answer goes something like this. During meiosis, we have to scramble the DNA so that we guarantee ultimately that the egg will be genetically unique, not like her mother. It will have characteristics of her parents and grandparents, but those genes get shuffled, remember, through crossing over and independent alignment. Why keep all the cytoplasm just with one of the nuclei? Well, we need that egg to be as big as it possibly can be when it gets fertilized by the sperm, because the first few stages of embryologic development all happen with the cytoplasm of that one egg. And so we need the egg to be as big as possible. So it's sort of corny, but I think she keeps all of her eggs in one basket. She keeps all of her cytoplasm with that one nucleus, which is on its way to becoming an egg. Meanwhile, the follicle is beginning to develop as she gets closer to ovulation. Only the best and brightest of the secondary oocytes get promoted to this level, and the largest and best are going to fill with fluid, and on day 14, ovulation. So the secondary oocyte is what is ovulated. After ovulation, it's very strange, but the egg begins the process of meiosis 2. Begins the process, but it doesn't complete it until after fusion with the sperm. How very strange. The egg doesn't complete meiosis II until after fertilization. Now, if the woman is not sexually active or using birth control, if the egg is not fertilized, it will die and be shed with the menstrual fluid around day 28. But if the sperm is capable of fertilizing, then the egg will complete meiosis II, and the second polar body that's generated is also kicked out of the cell. Then the male and female chromosomes line up next to each other. We restore the diploid status. We now have a single cell with 23 pairs of chromosomes. It's called a zygote, and it's on its way to becoming an embryo. Over on this side, if we back up a quick step, we see that this tertiary follicle just prior to ovulation is now filled with fluid. And as the LH surge, the luteinizing hormone surge, comes down, it will cause this follicle to fill with fluid to the point where it can no longer contain the pressure, and that's really what triggers the release of the egg. Arguably the strangest secretion in human physiology. This little cell has no way of getting out of the ovary other than actually rupturing through the side of it, strangely, like a pimple popping. We'll watch a video of that in class later on. What's left of the follicle is significant. It turns into this yellow body called the corpus luteum, which of course means the yellow body. And this is a tiny endocrine gland. It releases progesterone and estrogen to promote the uterus to get ready in case this little egg is fertilized. And then we're going to need a place for implantation to occur.